Ladies and gentlemen, good morning everybody. I would ask you to take your seats. We'll be proceeding to the beginning of our program very, very shortly. Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour à tous. Merci de regagner vos places. Nous allons commencer dans quelques instants. Good morning, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Buenos dias. Are you enjoying your time in Vienna? Yeah, so am I. It's wonderful to welcome you to day 3, the final day of the Vienna Food Safety Forum 2025. So today we'll delve into the critical role of digitalization and artificial intelligence in shaping the future of food safety. So before we start, please keep your phones on silence and note that translation will be available throughout. So let's proceed now to our agenda with the first session of the day, session 8, which will focus on the electronic exchange of sanitary and phytosanitary certificates for enhanced food trade. And it is my pleasure now to welcome our moderator for this session, Mrs. Edith Laget, Policy Analyst for Agri-food Trade and Markets at the OECD. A big round of applause for Mademoiselle Laget. I'm also very pleased to be introducing our esteemed panelists for this discussion, Mrs. Macarena Torres-Rosell, Deputy Director for Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation at the World Economic Forum. Welcome. Also, Mrs. Anna Somerville, Assistant Secretary of the Australian Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry. The only gentleman on this panel, Mr. Eric Bosker, Senior Policy Advisor in the Animal Supply Chain and Animal Welfare at the Department of the Ministry of Economic Affairs of the Netherlands. Welcome. Mrs. Nogai Diane Diop, Program Coordinator of the African Alliance for E-Commerce. And finally, Mrs. Maria Esteras, Senior Technical Advisor of the Office of International Coordination at the United States Department of Agriculture. Edith, the floor is yours.
Let me try. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's true. Like, we get blind when we go on stage. So, good morning, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be moderating this session today. This is a mouthful again of words. On the electronic exchange of sanitary and phytosanitary certificates. This is a topic that really sits at the intersection between trade facilitation and food safety. And before we dive in, I would like to say, and I think everyone shared the same feeling as me, that this has been a very impressive first 2 days, very impressed by the quality of the discussion we have been in the first 7 sessions, quality of the moderation, quality of Maria, our MC, and I want to congratulate the small but mighty team organizing this event and a very engaged audience. So, just like to reassure you that this morning you are again in good hands. We have a fantastic lineup of speakers and experts, very well colorful dress for the morning. So that's what we want to show, that we can be very powerful also on stage. And I just would like to reiterate that we have a clear mission for the next 80 minutes. So let me briefly reintroduce what we are here to do today. So first, we will hear about the recent development in SPS electronic certification. So this I will make use of the first intro to have our speakers introduce their thoughts on recent development. Second, we were asked to share lessons learned from the different existing pilot projects and ongoing initiative of using SPS eCert. So here I expect again that the topic of interoperability to come up again, and especially when it comes to linking the national singles window between with each other. And third, we will also talk about the role that different partners, and you see here in all the affiliations of the speakers that everybody comes from different angles, so different actors, government, private sectors, and standard setting bodies, how they can support the broader adoption of electronic certification. So, but before I give the floor to our speakers, I'd like to take advantage of my position of moderator and to explain what the OECD is doing in this area. So as you may know, a big part of the work that we do at the OECD is to produce policy analysis and give evidence-based information to help shape policy discussion. Policy discussion that not only take place at the national level, but also in multilateral forum like the WTO. Our work also informs international standard setting organization, WOA, IPPC, and Codex. And most particularly, most recently, we have been working on how digital tools can help facilitate safe trade. So for us at OECD, a good way to show those evidence is to use numbers and come up and create numbers. So I would like to share, I picked two numbers from our recent work, and maybe you can guess what the first one is about. So the first one is 22%. Any idea on what this 22% in the field of trade and trade facilitation and food, I'm going to try to give you a hint, and food security can mean 22%. No. So it's a number that comes up very often in our OECD FAO agricultural outlook. It's a joint report that we publish annually on the set of the medium term of global markets, and 22% is the share of calories consumed globally that have crossed at least one time a border before reaching a consumer plate. So it means that 22% it's quite significant. It can be much bigger for some countries, and we heard Singapore as relying much more on imports for food trade, and or less for other countries that are more oriented toward export. But it just means that trade is essential for food security, and not just trade, but safe trade. It's essential for food security. And the second number, it's a bit more tricky, so I'm not going to make you guess. It's 33%. So that comes from a recent publication I've been working on that looked at the current use and benefits of using SPS certificates. 33% is the value of trade that would have been lost if country didn't have electronic certification during the COVID pandemic for the meat processing sectors. So I picked up the biggest number, so the sector that was most impacted, but it's a pretty big number. So it shows again with this study that digital tool and in particular electronic certification can keep agro-food flowing even in a time of global crisis. So I'm going to sit for now. And turn to our experts, not the data cruncher, but our real experts with real hands-on expertise. And for that, I would like to invite each of you in turns to bring your unique experience on SPS certification. And let's use this introduction to tackle the first objective of the session, meaning to share from your perspective what are the most recent developments on e-cert in the field you are working on. So I would like to start with you, Ms. Anna, dear Anna. You are Assistant Secretary at the Department of Agriculture, Fishery and Forestry in Australia, and you've been closely involved with the CODES committee, CC-FIX. Would you mind starting off and also remind us a bit what CC-FIX is doing and also what's been your journey for the Australia government?
Thank you very much, Edith. So just to explain first a little bit about my day job, I'm by no means a technical expert on e-certification, but in my day job it's my bread and butter around negotiating certification for sanitary certificates for animal products, food and in particular, but also other animal products to our trading partners around the world. And I have a fantastic technical team headed up by Matthew Moore, who many of you may know, who provides very generously his expertise to us, but also others that wish to learn. So I'll just put that out there as a starting point too. So please reach out to us if you'd like to know more. I'm also, as you say, very involved in CC-FIX. Australia hosts that committee, and Tom Black, who spoke to you earlier, chairs the committee, and I'm the Australian delegation head to CC-FIX. My in-depth introduction to e-certification was actually during the COVID-19 pandemic when we held the first CC-FIX fully virtually. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire on many fronts because I have the CC-FIX Secretariat within my branch as well. And remarkably, we achieved the agreement of paperless trade guidance at that virtual meeting, working with the Netherlands and others. It was a thing to celebrate. Sadly, though, because it was virtual, we had to celebrate virtually as well. And I always think face-to-face meetings such as the one we're at here today is better for developing those relationships and that trust and developing standards. But it was quite an introduction to how passionate e-cert experts can be about this really important tool and exchanging data between trading partners. Australia has been privileged to play a really leading role in the development of e-cert and paperless trade since 1998, and that's in part because we export most of what we produce, and we're also an island that's a long way away from everyone else, so e-cert just seemed to make sense. And here I'd like to acknowledge New Zealand because together with New Zealand we really did do a lot of early work on forging ahead with e-certification, including working on the SPS standard for e-cert at UNCFACT. And we continue to look at how we can grow paperless trade from our current 38 exchanges and how we can provide assistance to those that it might be at the start of their journey or some way along their journey and facing barriers. Following the successful release of updated certification guidance by CC-FIX in 2021, which we worked on with Netherlands, we have contributed our expertise to the development of recently published WOA guidance on e-cert data models. Standard development has been so critical for e-certification uptake and developing that understanding and know-how and consistency. And consistency is really important. Consistency of data exchange is really important in the e-cert space. CC-FIX is continuing to look at how it can help improve the use of digital tools in this regard. And you heard from Brazil, who's leading some work in how we can maybe standardise food safety attestations. But I also think the work that Australia is leading with many others on digitalisation of national food control systems is very relevant here, developing some high-level principles that will guide us forward and make sense of how we do our work in food safety regulation in a digital age. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna. I would like now to turn to Nogai. Cher Nogai, her intervention are going to be made in French, so I invite you to take on your headset, and let's give you a few seconds for that. Also, from the team, I think there are some slides that need to be put on as visual for supporting to make us travel in Nogai day-to-day work. And so let me now switch to French. So, cher Nogai, vous êtes la coordinatrice de programme pour l'Alliance africaine du commerce électronique, et vous êtes aussi rapporteur pour le continent africain à UNCFACT. Vous avez posé un certain nombre de questions excellentes pour les 2 premiers jours. Et donc, maintenant, je voudrais vous donner la possibilité de partager votre expérience et aussi peut-être nous dire sur quoi vous avez été impliqué très récemment. J'ai entendu parler des projets pilotes, donc à vous.
Merci beaucoup, Edith. Bonjour à toutes et à tous. Alors, moi, comme Edith l'a dit, Nogai Diagne, je suis chargée de programme au niveau de l'Alliance africaine pour le commerce électronique. Pour ceux qui ne connaissent pas l'Alliance, c'est une organisation africaine à but non lucratif qui œuvre pour la facilitation des échanges à travers l'échange de documents électroniques et également la dématérialisation des procédures de commerce. Donc aujourd'hui, nous sommes 22 membres répartis au niveau de toutes les communautés économiques régionales. Nous avons des membres qui sont au niveau de l'Afrique de l'Ouest, de l'Afrique centrale, de l'Est, du Nord et également de l'océan Indien. Donc pourquoi la création de cette alliance? Parce que depuis 2000, les pays membres, les experts de pays membres, se sont rendus compte du déficit en termes de sensibilisation et également de projets de guichet unique. Donc, en 2009, des experts africains se sont réunis pour mettre en place une association qui vise à promouvoir la dématérialisation des procédures de commerce à travers la mise en œuvre des guichets uniques. Donc cette idée, cette création a été appuyée par la Commission des Nations Unies pour l'Afrique à travers son Centre africain pour les politiques commerciales. Donc toujours dans le cadre de la sensibilisation et de la mise en œuvre de plateformes pour échanger des documents, en 2013, nous avons eu une adhésion de taille qui est celle de l'UEMOA. L'UEMOA, c'est une commission qui regroupe 8 pays qui ont un marché commun et un destin également commun. Donc, lorsqu'il s'est agi de valider l'adhésion de l'UEMOA, nous avons commencé à travailler sur la dématérialisation des certificats d'origine, certificats phytosanitaires et tous les documents requis dans le cadre des procédures d'import-export. Donc, ce programme, il rentre en parfaite adéquation avec le programme de l'UEMOA dans le cadre de la facilitation des échanges. Donc, ce qu'on a eu à faire en avril, nous avons fait un travail vraiment remarquable entre les pays membres de l'UEMOA parce qu'il s'est agi d'échanger pour la première fois les certificats d'origine et certificats phytosanitaires. Donc, comment est-ce que cette expérience a été conduite? Nous avons eu à mobiliser toutes les parties prenantes avec l'ancrage de l'UEMOA, qui reste aujourd'hui une sous-commission, d'échanger, de sensibiliser déjà tous les gouvernements des 8 pays afin qu'ils comprennent un peu l'enjeu de la dématérialisation des documents de commerce et à leur échange au niveau de la zone UEMOA. Donc, ce qu'on a eu à faire, c'est aujourd'hui, on a mis en place un projet pilote d'échange, comme je l'ai dit, de certificats d'origine et de certificats phytosanitaires. C'est un projet qui a mis du temps à prendre. Pourquoi? Parce que lorsqu'il s'est agi de mettre en place ce projet, on s'est rendu compte que la réglementation n'était pas à jour. Donc, ce qu'on a fait, nous avons inversé. Nous n'avons pas travaillé d'abord sur la réglementation, mais nous avons mis en place un projet électronique qui a révélé beaucoup de manquements sur la réglementation, sur l'infrastructure et également sur l'existence de beaucoup de petits systèmes aujourd'hui qui doivent être interopérables et se connecter pour pour la facilitation des échanges et éviter tout ce qui est tracasserie au niveau des frontières. Donc tout à l'heure, j'aurai l'occasion également d'échanger là-dessus longuement. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Now, I would like to turn to you, Marianne. Let's switch back to English. You are a senior technical advisor at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Food Safety and Inspection Service. And you bring experience from both the operation and the policy side, and in representing the FSIS in trade agreements and international discussions. So, same question to you. Could you tell us about your journey and what you have been working most recently for in terms of electronic certification?
Thank you, Edith. Good morning, everybody. First, I wanted to thank the event organizers for inviting me to this panel and for putting together this wonderful event. I can honestly say I'm leaving Vienna with an immense amount of thought-provoking information thanks to this event. So thank you very much. As Edith mentioned, my name is Maria Esteras. I am the Senior Technical Advisor for the USDA Food Safety and Inspection Service Office of International Coordination. FSIS is the competent authority for food safety and public health for meat, poultry, and egg products that are produced in the United States and that are exported from and imported to the United States. In my role, I represent FSIS or the United States in either various types of fora, international fora, whether it's trade agreements, trade negotiations, international meetings, or technical engagements. In many of these discussions, the topic of digitalization and modernizing our processes and procedures is raised. As a regulatory agency, we can appreciate the many benefits of electronic certification. We believe that having strong food safety control systems is critical to the economic growth of international agriculture and the availability of safe and nutritious food for consumers. Digital tools like eCert enhance the integrity, efficiency, and authenticity of certification systems. FSIS relies on international collaboration to strengthen global food safety. It is through these collaborations with trading partners that we can build and maintain trusting partnerships that help us reach our shared goal of optimizing the import and export of meat, poultry, and egg products between countries. Our journey did not start in the 1900s, and we are still toddlers in the electronic certification field. Our journey started in 2012 when FSIS published a final rule that provided for electronic certification of imports, streamlining of data elements required, removal of formatting requirements, and allowing importers the ability to submit electronic import inspection applications with exchange of information between FSIS's Public Health Information System, or PHIS, and the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Automated Commercial Environment, or ACE system. These changes were accompanied by comprehensive efforts to rethink and modernize, at the time, FSIS's import system in a more digital manner. 4 years later, in 2016, FSIS conducted a similar effort for exports, with a final rule that provided for electronic application for export certificates and facilitated operational, technical, and policy efforts to issue digitally signed PDF certificates through PHIS beginning in 2018. At that time, we also implemented a streamlined export certificate that better aligned data elements with codecs where possible. We further enhanced PHIS in 2021 to develop the capability of sending export eCert data elements and information. So currently, FSIS receives import eCert data from 4 countries, but we issue digitally signed certificates for approximately 150 countries and territories in the PHIS export component. FSIS is working to implement its export eCert functionality with interested countries and welcomes the opportunity to engage with additional countries to work towards eCert exchange. eCert implementation is a strategic goal for FSIS, and we will continue to prioritize this effort as an agency while continuing to onboard countries into the PHIS export component for those countries that are just not ready to receive eCert data at this time. I also wanted to note that the United States and Chile co-sponsored an eCert workshop during the August 2024 APEC meeting in Lima, Peru. During that workshop, we had numerous panels where we shared useful information and perspectives on eCert. We also had multiple economies provide demonstrations of their systems by setting up tables where small groups of participants could sit and use a testing environment to experience how the system works. In February of this year, a document titled APEC eCert for Animal Products Guide and Best Practices was endorsed by the APEC Subcommittee on Standards and Conformists. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will have a chance to come back to this relationship with trading partners later on with the questions. So let me turn again to the other side and ask Eric to introduce yourself. So Eric, you are Senior Policy Advisor in the Animal Supply Chain and Animal Welfare at the Ministry of Economic Affairs in the Netherlands. But I also know you have many different hats. And you've been engaged with WOA, Codex, UNCFACT, the Internal Chamber of Commerce. So you have a very diverse perspective of what's going on, and we would love to hear about your view, your perspective on recent developments.
Yeah, thank you, Edith, and good morning to all of you. Preparing for this, I was wondering how to characterize my journey. And I thought it's a kind of voyage of discovery, because it's so wonderful and the world is so full of wonderful and inspiring people like you all, like my panel here, and like all of you, the audience, and in the other organizations. And it's really a privilege to become colleagues and friends with you. And my journey is also one of creating connections, like Edith said. Like Edith said, that I'm creating, I try to create connections in my way of working. And I learned this from the Netherlands by starting to work bilateral and discovering that eCert exchanges from a technical perspective are no rocket science. The challenging part is to creating trust in the electronic file. And we needed to find out, together with our partner, how are we going to create trust in this electronic file? And we needed to identify the technology for this, and we needed to identify the regulatory conditions for creating trust in this file. So, and what I learned was that creating the technical file for exchange, it took us about a year. But creating trust in the electronic file to become paperless took us about 3 years. And that learned me that you should work together with other people to create guidance for others in creating trust. And that's what we've done together with Australia in CCFlix. We developed guidance based on an existing, we revised an existing guideline, but we created an additional electronic tool to it. But the challenge in this part was to make it technology agnostic. And it was so nice to hear this week a lot of people talking about we need standards, but we don't need standards in technology. We need standards in semantics. And this is exactly what we have done in CCFIX, together with Australia, and together with with an electronic working group participating from everywhere in the world. And this is something really great. What I also did together with Australia in this working group is making connections with other standard-setting bodies like IPPC, like WOA, but also with WCO. And I also made connection with WTO STDF, because they all were participating in the electronic working group we led. And the nice thing of this was, through this Codex work, I also got connected with AICA. And AICA organized a webinar for South America and the Caribbean countries. And I did a very amateuristic attempt to explain the development of CCFIX guidance, like creating a meal. And it was so nice to have some feedback from somebody who said, I'm going to eat in your restaurant. So what also happened during this working together with Australia was that I got connected with WOA and became a consultant in an STDF project on e-veterinary certification in a single window environment. And that learned me much more about single windows and the beneficial, what is beneficial about what could be beneficial for single windows in exchanging SPS certificates, and also to organize yourself at national level, but not only for food, but also for veterinary purposes, and also IPPC, also for phytosanitary purposes. And because of this work, because being consultant for WOA, I became also connected with the WCO, with the data modeling project team, because many single windows operate using the World Customs data model. And in this data model, there are certain packages. And there is a Codex-derived information package. There is a WOA-derived information package. And from this week, after we had adopted our Codex guidance, we took care of alignment between the World Customs data model and the data and the reference data model in the Codex guidance. And having been a consultant for WOA drafting this report, I also participated in the latest WOA work that has been published last year by WOA, and where we created reference data models for the seven templates that are in the WOA guidance. And in this way, we published also a kind of reference data model for the WOA certificates. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. So last but not least, I want to turn to Macarena. Thank you, Maria, for sharing the mic. You are Deputy Director at the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, working through the World Economic Forum. I would like you to highlight some of the recent work of the Global Alliance, and maybe also some thoughts around how the World Economic Forum is engaged with that.
That's great. Thank you so much. Very happy to be here. As they mentioned, I am with the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, and I am part of the World Economic Forum. I think I come with a different hat for this panel, in the fact that we serve, also in the vein of the World Economic Forum, we come as a convening power and a convener when bringing together both the public and the private sector to implement projects to facilitate the implementation of the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement. So the Global Alliance has been around for about 10 years. We have implemented a lot of digitalization and process reinforcement projects, and about 1/3 of those are on phytosanitary certificates, so digitizing the phytosanitary certificates. For us, it's important to do this work. We focus on projects that, number one, have a focus on having both the public and the private sector involved from the beginning. We think it's quite important. We think it's relevant to bring voice to both sectors. I think, it's good always to be part of a panel when it comes at the end of an event, because you sort of get to hear the fantastic insights from other colleagues. And I think a common thread across the 3 days is the fact that we need to build trust. And I think that's one of the things that we really have to work on. And it may sound obvious, but it's not always the case. I think in our case, every time we go to a country where we want to see if there's an opportunity to support and work with the government to implement a project, we always have initially like a public-private dialogue where we bring everybody from all the sectors to discuss and come together to understand what challenges both of the sectors are facing. And frankly, the first meeting is always a meeting of like a list of issues that both sectors have because they have never had the opportunity or they don't have that many chances to talk together. And so it's sort of going through that, building the knowledge with each other, building the understanding that the challenges are not just because one or the other sector doesn't want to support, but it's just because everybody has their own challenges, restrictions, financial resources, limits, and so on. So we do a lot of that. I think the convening, the trust, a lot of the mention about networking, communicating is key in the work that we do. As I mentioned, we have a lot of experience on this. We have implemented, as I said, about 45 projects. The hat that I wear within the World Economic Forum and the Global Alliance is focused on impact measurement. And so we also want to make sure that when we go and we work with governments and the private sector to implement a project, we have a tangible result at the end. So, for example, one of the projects that we implemented was with the Moroccan authorities, the MPPO. Great project on the e-phyto certificate. And at the end, we were able to show a tangible success of this project. And so we saw a reduction in the time to issue the certificate by 82%, which translated to about savings of $240 per container and about $42 million for the private sector per year. And this is, of course, taking into account that in some cases, sometimes, the containers get stuck and there's a lot of loss of food in that process. And so we want to be able to support and implement and facilitate the movement of goods. And so I think from our side, that's quite relevant. I have a lot to say, and I'll add that when we talk about the questions. But yeah, the convening of the private sector is quite relevant. The implementation and the support from both, it's very important when we implement the projects, but also the trust building and being able to show tangible results at the end. So thank you so much.
Thank you. 82%, you beat me with a bigger number. So let's now move on to the question and more exchange with the panelists. But before we do that, may I ask a favor to the technical parts? I think it's possible to have a clock so that make sure I can keep track on where we stand and when we can start taking questions from the audience. So my first set of questions, so again, to fulfill this mission that we have for this session 8, will be tackling the lesson learned. You already shared very rich experience, long-term experience in your different organizations, and you probably learned lessons from that. So I would like first, I will ask a set of 1 or 2 questions and name a few of you and then give you a chance, and anybody can react to that, of course. So the first one, I would like to ask them to Nogai, Macarena, and Eric. I will read them in English and also in French because I think it's important to balance, again, continue with this on the francophonie, and I think Nogai had a very good point of making this a balance in language, and thank you for the interpreter for that to facilitating this work. So the first question is, what are some of the most important takeaways for implementing electronic SPS framework? So quels sont les messages les plus importants dans l'implémentation des certificats électroniques sanitaires et phytosanitaires? And in your view, I would like to know the critical success factors for building the trust. So we heard already a lot about trust, and encouraging broader adoption of electronic certification. So, que peut-on faire pour avoir des éléments clés pour le succès, pour renforcer la confiance et aussi encourager l'adoption donc de la certification électronique. Peut-être Nogai, si vous voulez commencer.
Merci beaucoup, Edith. Alors, je vais d'abord parler de la confiance et comment est-ce que l'Alliance s'y est pris pour déjà avoir cette confiance entre les acteurs qui sont impliqués dans le cadre de l'échange des certificats d'origine, certificats phytosanitaires. Dans un premier temps, nous avons essayé d'avoir l'ancrage institutionnel parce que nous appartenons à une communauté économique régionale qui est la CEDEAO. Et dans la CEDEAO, nous avons l'UEMOA qui regroupe aujourd'hui 8 pays qui partagent la même monnaie. Donc, d'abord, pour construire cette confiance, nous avons eu l'ancrage institutionnel qui a permis aujourd'hui de sensibiliser tous les pays membres de cette commission. Donc, cette sensibilisation s'est faite pendant plusieurs années, il faut l'avouer, parce que avant que les pays adoptent un projet, il faut que les parties prenantes, les décideurs soient très bien sensibilisés et informés des contours de tout du projet. Donc, ce qu'on a fait pour la saisine de ces autorités, nous avons eu à organiser dans un premier temps des ateliers d'information et de sensibilisation. Et comme nous le savons, au niveau de l'Alliance, nous regroupons les guichets uniques. Et je tiens à rappeler aujourd'hui, le guichet unique reste une recommandation forte du WTO Trade Facilitation et au niveau de l'article 10.4. Donc aujourd'hui, l'OMC encourage fortement les pays à mettre en place un guichet unique pour le commerce extérieur. Donc ce qu'on a fait, nous nous sommes appuyés sur les guichets uniques existants pour aujourd'hui sensibiliser davantage tous les pays qui en disposent. Ce qu'on a fait vraiment pour ne pas laisser derrière d'autres pays qui ne disposent pas encore d'un guichet unique dans la zone, nous avons fait des ateliers de sensibilisation dans ces pays, sachant qu'ils n'ont pas de système, pour les sensibiliser déjà de l'importance de mettre en place un guichet unique. Et lorsqu'il faille aujourd'hui mettre en place le projet, nous leur avons développé des portails qui puissent leur permettre aujourd'hui d'être des parties prenantes importantes dans ce projet. Donc, d'abord, l'ancrage institutionnel au niveau d'une communauté économique régionale, qui est la CEDEAO au niveau de l'UEMOA, et également le fait de ne pas laisser les pays qui ne disposent pas de système en rade. Donc ça a été une approche inclusive qui nous a permis vraiment de déjà bâtir cette confiance et également de pouvoir facilement implémenter les projets que nous avons dans cette zone. L'autre aspect également, il s'agit de les sensibiliser sur l'importance aujourd'hui et le fait que notre organisation, en partenariat avec la commission de l'UEMOA, travaille sur la base des recommandations internationales en termes d'échange de données, comme Eric l'a dit tantôt. Nous appuyons sur tout ce qui est standard de l'OMD, de l'UNCFAC pour échanger. Donc, c'est également le fait de s'aligner aux standards et normes internationales leur a donné davantage de confiance quant à l'échange et également l'hébergement des données et tout ce qui est interopérabilité. Donc, ceci a été très important et dans cet exercice également, nous n'avons pas écarté le secteur privé. Parce que nous nous sommes appuyés vraiment sur le secteur privé pour faire un plaidoyer important à l'endroit de leur gouvernement. Et tout ceci, je veux dire, consiste et renforce également la confiance. Lorsqu'il faille mettre en place le projet, ce qu'on a fait, nous nous sommes rendus, par exemple, au niveau du Mali, qui était le pays de destination des produits importés du Sénégal. Nous avons eu à visiter toutes les parties prenantes, les douanes, parce que des fois on peut se dire que le fait d'envoyer des courriers officiels, et je pense qu'il faudrait qu'on puisse quitter nos bureaux maintenant, aller sur le terrain, visiter les décideurs, visiter les parties prenantes pour leur montrer l'importance et les bénéfices qu'ils pourront en tirer de ce projet-là. Donc, nous l'avons conduite ainsi, cette initiative, et également tout le temps de la sensibilisation et également le fait de leur montrer que tous les pays, in fine, gagneront dans cette initiative-là. Donc, pour toujours parler de l'intérêt de le faire parce que nous avons eu ensemble avec les acteurs maliens et sénégalais, nous les avons regroupés et nous avons suivi ensemble. C'était vraiment une expérience très, disons, inédite parce que nous avons fait 1000 kilomètres avec les acteurs des deux parties des pays, les douanes, les directions de l'industrie, les directions chargées de la protection des végétaux et également le secteur privé à travers les conseils des chercheurs, à travers également les fêtières qui végètent toujours pour la facilitation et qui, disons, qui travaillent pour la facilitation des échanges. Donc, on les a regroupés. Ensemble, nous avons mené une activité de Dakar. Nous avons suivi une cargaison réelle pour un peu voir comment est-ce que la plateforme qu'on a mise en œuvre elle réagit dans le cadre de la digitalisation. Donc, encore une fois, de la sensibilisation et également des fois se déplacer sur le terrain pour un peu que les gens puissent mettre, disons, des visages sur les noms afin de permettre aux décideurs d'avoir davantage la confiance pour aller ensemble dans ce projet qui a un fort impact encore dans la digitalisation. Parce qu'avec la plateforme que nous avons mis en place, en nous appuyant sur les guichets uniques, nous n'avons pas créé de système additionnel. Nous nous appuyons sur les guichets uniques existants et pour les pays qui n'en disposent pas, nous avons mis en place un portail qui puisse leur permettre aujourd'hui d'être dans ce voyage-là. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Beaucoup d'informations que je comptais vous poser dans les questions, mais c'est très bien, notamment sur les douanes et cette notion de guichet unique, on reviendra sur ça. So I'm mindful of the time, and Macarena, because you mentioned that you've been working in more than 40 projects, and the Global Alliance has been doing work on inclusivity. So maybe you can also react on that part.
Yes, thank you so much for that. So happy to dive in on this. I give it a good thought. Obviously, technology is important, but as I mentioned, it's about the people, the trust, and the partnership. That's quite relevant. As I mentioned, frankly, in order for us to show our value as a convener and as an implementer and a collaborator with governments and the private sector, we need to show tangible wins. And that's why being able to show specific results when we support with the digitalization of certificate is quite important. And it's also important, especially for smaller companies, because they need to see the value for the time invested. So that's also quite a relevant thing that we focus on. I think in terms of digitalization, for us, what we've noticed is that automation and not just digitalization is what actually moves the needle. What I mean by that is the fact that you cannot digitize absolutely every single process. Sometimes the processes are quite antiquated. And, you might have a certificate that has 25 steps, and it does not make sense to digitize 25 steps. And so we cannot bring, and I think what we've learned is that we cannot bring 19th century thinking and processes into 21st century technology. And so we focus a lot on process reinforcement and process simplification to make sure that what's digitalized is not something that is very rudimentary, but is something that is fit for purpose and it makes sense in the country. Apart from that, something that has already been mentioned quite a bit is the change management piece. The automation cannot happen in isolation, so a change management strategy is important. I think yesterday by a couple of the participants, it was mentioned that, there's a lot of resistance at the beginning for new processes, and that's not necessarily based on the fact that the process is, or the new system is difficult. It's just that, I also struggle when somebody tells me that when I had to start using Teams or something like that. It's always, the first thought is always you don't want to do it. But that's why change management and in the involvement of both the public and the private sector from the beginning, from the co-design of the project, the co-implementation, and the showing of solutions and the showing of the results at the end are quite relevant and quite important. And so, again, trust building is equally vital on that. And so I think also in these processes, clear communication and information sharing as much as it's possible, it's relevant. Again, a lot of mention around how much data can you share, what is the availability of information within the data mandates and policies that exist. I think that's quite important, especially in a regional setting, like it was mentioned before. So I think lessons learned and, my point of view in terms of success of a successful implementation of a digitalization project is that you need to do the right technology. So also don't use something that is fantastic in your country, but it wouldn't make sense in a low digital setting. That's quite relevant. You need to have strong partnerships, strong support locally. Make sure that you include the smaller businesses. They don't have a lot of time. They need the processes to make sense for them as well. And then focus, and this will support to focus on the sustainable and feasible impact for the long term. It's all about building trust. It's not necessarily all about building the technology. So digital tools are quite powerful, but again, collaboration and change management are what transforms these solutions into lasting solutions.
Thank you. What if we turn now to our more policy specialist, and I would like Anna and Maria to react on that part. In your presentation, your first presentation, you already talked about the importance of bringing different stakeholders together, bringing your trading partners, interacting with other countries, having them on board. Could you tell us, based on your experience, what works quite well with the different industry stakeholders to build this capacity and then generate acceptance of it? So maybe Maria, if you want to start, and then we move to Anna.
Thank you. So we have found that simply focusing on the benefits of eCert is a very effective way to engage and encourage countries with eCert. And so we've talked about these benefits multiple times throughout these last 2 days, but I'll just reiterate again some of those benefits. Secure data exchange between government systems. It saves inspectors, exporters, and importers time and resources to use eCert. It eliminates less secure paper processes. We all have concerns with that. Decreases notification time in the event of a product recall. It helps prevent fraud and supports rapid identification of errors. And it increases efficiency of problem solving. So one of the things we've learned through our experience is that there needs to be dedicated bilateral technical teams assigned to these projects. That's essential to developing and maintaining momentum for implementing an eCert exchange. This is not a quick process. This is not an easy process. And so we've mentioned trust multiple times over the last 2 days and this morning. I don't think trust is inherently in regulators. It's not something we are very keen to. And so it takes time to build that trust. And by having those dedicated teams, technical teams, they're able to build that rapport and that trust so that when questions arise, they feel confident they can ask those questions. They can come up with solutions that are beneficial for both parties. And they can keep, again, that eye on the prize, which is the eCert exchange.
Thank you, Maria. Anna, I can give you the microphone to react.
Thank you, and totally agree. Selling the benefits is really important. Just to add a stat, because I know Edith likes numbers. When we looked at our system, when we moved to paperless exchange, we were able to reduce the time taken to issue a certificate from, in some cases, up to 15 days, believe it or not, down to minutes or hours. So it's very powerful in terms of what it can do in speeding up our processes and getting food to where it needs to go safely. And it does really combat fraud too, so something that's very topical in CC Fix. A couple of things, lessons learnt for us in terms of our bilateral exchanges. We had to take a lot of time developing relationships with trading partners. We needed our policy and technical people involved in this and gaining experience and knowledge with our eCert exchanges and how our trading partners' systems worked and how our systems worked to build that trust and confidence. That means taking the time to listen and understand where our partners are in their journey and what their drivers are. So it may not always be the same benefits that we're seeking. and the barriers too, and remaining flexible around that. Sometimes we need to start off with a smaller pilot and build from that. And sometimes we're in parallel exchange where we've got paper and e-cert in place for some time before that trust and confidence is built. And frankly, we had to listen and put in some extra effort to make sure that we could consume e-cert data. When we started out in the 1900s, as Maria said, we were very focused on exports, and we had some limitations in our domestic systems that we had to digitalise and modernise before we could consume effectively data for imports. But we are now there, and that's a huge plus in any negotiation with a trading partner, that you can both send e-cert messages and consume them, and not everyone can do that. So that's something that I didn't know before we got involved in this. As mentioned before, I just can't understate the importance of investing in international standards. So get involved in the work that's still going on. Make sure that you know what those standards and data models are. It's really important that when you're designing and building your e-cert exchanges and your system, that your experts are very aware of that. And so that was really key. And I think Eric is absolutely right that we met and learnt a lot through that journey as well, which helped with the increasing the uptake. But it doesn't stop just with developing standards. You actually have to get out there and advocate for those standards, spread awareness. We've been involved in a number of workshops, and we're happy to provide our experts into those workshops to help our partners on their e-cert journey and help them develop that knowledge and not make the mistakes that we made early on. And then the final thing in terms of the lessons learnt, it's not a set and forget. Once you've done that, had those initial conversations, you've got an agreement, you've done the testing, you actually have to maintain those strong lines of communication with your partners, because things do go wrong, even in the e-cert world. And if you don't attend to that, you lose that trust that we've all been talking about. I agree with what the panel members have been saying about the importance of involving all stakeholders, but we've been fortunate in that regard that our export industries, because they are so export focused, really saw those benefits early on. So it didn't take too much to convince them to get on board, and they're often key advocates in working with their importers when we're building those e-cert exchanges to build awareness and support the success of the e-cert exchanges and the paperless exchanges. But industry, like everybody, does have old systems that are very paper-based as well. So in some cases, even though this is a government-issued certificate that was relied on for exchanging sanitary data, we discovered through our e-cert journey that in some cases some of our industries are using information on the certificate for their commercial purposes. So we had to, in some cases, provide an extract that isn't a certificate. It doesn't have any attestations or official government certification on it in the early days to sort of maintain and support our industry in their endeavours. And that's something to think about too, and it's why it's really important to understand how the whole ecosystem works, how your industry is using your government certificates, as well as how the importing country is. But happy to chat in the break about any of that experience. Thank you.
Yeah, so remaining flexible would be also, and agile on this would be also one of the lessons learned. Eric, I want also to give you the floor and give you the opportunity to share your lessons, and I suspect that you will help us connect to the next topic of interoperability and cooperation between agencies. So that was already mentioned by you, Nogai, with the customs. So could you reflect on that, and then after that we will jump to a bit more details on the national and regional single windows, le guichet unique.
thank you, Edith. And well, I want to go back to the bilateral cooperation that I had from the Netherlands from 2010 to 2015. So that's quite a long time ago. But it was how to build trust with our counterpart. And as I said, the technology to exchange that file was not the most difficult one. The most difficult one was how to understand what our counterpart needed to really trust this XML file, and to compare it with what's the security of the paper document that we were still using. And apparently the XML file itself was not sufficient for them to leave the paper out. So we need to get mutual understanding in what was needed to make the electronic file, in the eyes of our counterpart, similar reliable as the paper certificate. And then you talk about authenticity, integrity, and this kind of things, and non-manipulation. And the nice thing was that during one of our discussions on this topic, we had both had translators on each side. And it was at a certain time that the translator on our counterpart side started to decide to assist us in trying to make us understand each other. And that's how you build trust with each other, by talking to each other and making things, trying to clarify things, and reaching out to the counterpart to make you understand what they need. And in the end, it was at some time after lunch we were walking back, and it was, I think, after some 2 years we were busy with this topic to discuss, and then we were walking back to our meeting location, and then my counterpart said, "I think I have this afternoon some good news for you." And then at the end of the day, they announced, we can go paperless. And this is really the result of building trust by communicating, respecting each other, and identifying what's important for your counterpart. So, and okay, this is about how we try to build trust with our Netherlands team in bilateral cooperations. And this is basically also how I think it works with creating standards. That's also creating confidence and trust among each other that you do something useful. And you know, it was really nice to hear during several sessions that we don't need technology and standards. We need semantics. And that's exactly what we have done in CCFIX, in Codex. We have provided semantics. And this is exactly what we have done with the WOA guidance that has been published last year. We also, again, provided semantics. And these semantics, these are semantics from SPS perspective. But as SPS certificates and trade is also related with custom procedures and customs data, and with the World Customs Data Model, you also need to connect these SPS data with World Customs Data Model. And there is opportunity for that. We did it after the Codex guidance has been adopted. And WOA is also going to do this together with WCO again. They are going to work together with the data modeling project team to align the WOA-derived information package in this. And this is all to serve single window exchanges, and how to use these data elements, which are critical for the exchanges, and how to identify these data elements and how they can make interoperable with each other, together with customs.
Thanks. So a lot of, you say, the communication and reaching out to the different counterparts, it's key to have this as a successful work. And Nogai, you said like you have traveled thousands of kilometers to do this connection and reaching out to people. So I think I want to give you the opportunity je voudrais vous donner la possibilité de revenir sur le guichet unique. C'est, comme vous avez dit, quelque chose qui prend du temps à planifier, dont la planification doit être bien pensée avec différentes étapes. Dans nos conversations avant, vous avez utilisé le terme vraiment step by step pour être sûr que on a un objectif qui pourrait être le gold standards, mais en même temps prévoir aussi des solutions pour aligner tout inclusive pour s'aligner à ces standards. Donc, est-ce que vous pouvez nous dire un petit peu plus sur ces guichets uniques, s'il vous plaît?
Merci Edith. Alors, dans le cadre de la mise en œuvre des guichets uniques, l'Alliance avec les pays, les experts membres de cette organisation, travaille sur 3 aspects. Et le premier aspect, c'est sur la publication. Parce qu'aujourd'hui, le constat qui a été fait, c'est qu'il n'y avait pas beaucoup de publications sur la mise en œuvre pratique d'un guichet unique en Afrique. Donc, ce que l'Alliance a fait d'abord, c'est de publier un guide de mise en œuvre pratique qui puisse permettre à tous les gouvernements de savoir par quel bout prendre un projet de guichet unique. Et dans ce guide, nous avons insisté sur les recommandations de l'UNCFACT et également de l'OMD en termes d'échange de données et de mise en place toujours de systèmes. Donc, dans cette publication, vous aurez tous les aspects qui reflètent la standardisation, également la définition des guichets uniques. Parce qu'il faudrait qu'on puisse s'accorder sur un aspect. Il y a beaucoup de typologies de guichets uniques. Donc, ce travail-là, il est fait à travers la publication. Le deuxième aspect sur lequel on travaille, c'est sur l'organisation de forums internationaux qui puissent aujourd'hui permettre à tous les acteurs de pouvoir davantage suivre l'évolution des guichets uniques et tout le temps pour le bénéfice des acteurs au niveau des pays. Le troisième aspect, c'est l'interconnexion des systèmes. Ce qu'on a constaté, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, sans le respect, l'alignement aux standards, les guichets uniques ne peuvent pas communiquer. Donc, on ne peut pas parler d'interopérabilité si les guichets uniques ne sont pas mis en œuvre sur la base de normes et standards internationaux. On l'a vécu lorsqu'il faille mettre en place le pilote entre le Sénégal et Côte d'Ivoire. Le Sénégal, Côte d'Ivoire d'abord, parce que le Sénégal dispose d'un guichet unique depuis 2002. La Côte d'Ivoire dispose de son guichet unique également depuis tout récemment, donc je pense vers les 2014 ou 2015. Lorsqu'il s'est agi d'échanger les documents, nous avons dans un premier temps essayé d'interroger les technologies qui ont été utilisées. Donc, on s'est rendu compte qu'en suivant les normes et standards, on peut facilement échanger des données entre les guichets uniques. Et donc, c'est comme ça qu'on a fait pour échanger le certificat électronique. Et à l'époque, ça a généré plus de vraiment 400 certificats entre le Sénégal et la Côte d'Ivoire. L'expérience récemment qu'on a vécue entre le Sénégal et le Mali, parce qu'en fait, cette expérience, elle est importante, parce que les 2 pays partagent une frontière commune. Et donc, lorsqu'il faille mettre en place un système numérique, il faudrait d'abord voir si les prérequis sont d'abord sur place. C'est-à-dire que, au niveau des frontières, nous savons tous que nous avons des frontières qui ne sont pas bien équipées, et d'où la connectivité des fois peut faire défaut. Donc, nous avons au niveau du Sénégal échangé avec toutes les parties prenantes, les exportateurs, l'opérateur du guichet unique, la douane et également les directions de l'industrie qui sont tous connectés dans un environnement unique. Donc, au Sénégal, c'est ce que l'on a fait. Lorsqu'il s'est agi d'échanger avec le Mali, nous avons constaté des manquements. Le manquement, c'était sur le fait que les documents électroniques qui sont émis au niveau du Sénégal ne peuvent pas être échangés avec le Mali, tout simplement parce qu'on n'avait pas la réglementation qui était à jour déjà. Donc ce point-là, je pense que il faut le soulever. Grâce aux travaux qu'on a eu à faire, l'UEMOA a sorti une directive pour encadrer tout ce qui est reconnaissance de documents électroniques. Donc toujours au niveau du Sénégal, nous avons permis à travers le projet déjà de leur permettre à la douane de viser les documents avec une génération de code QR qui permet aujourd'hui de lutter contre la fraude. Comme nous le savons, je pense que mes collègues qui sont ici de la CEDEAO savent que les documents de commerce tels que le certificat d'origine, le certificat de phytosanitaire posent beaucoup de problèmes de contestation. Et donc, pour lutter contre cela, nous avons intégré un code QR qui puisse permettre aux acteurs, aux douaniers à la frontière de pouvoir scanner le code QR et d'avoir toutes les informations commerciales qui sont consignées dans le certificat d'origine et le certificat phytosanitaire. Maintenant, au niveau du Mali, comme le pays ne disposait pas, comme je l'ai dit tantôt, d'un guichet unique, nous avons mis en place un module qui puisse leur permettre, et ce qui est un embryon de guichet unique, qui puisse leur permettre de regrouper toutes les parties prenantes, les importateurs, les douanes, la direction de l'industrie, afin que ces deux pays puissent échanger. Parce que ce qui est fantastique, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, on permet à un pays de l'Interland de disposer des informations avant même l'arrivée de la marchandise sur son territoire. Donc, dès que le douanier sénégalais vise à travers une signature le certificat, avec la génération du code QR, avec une signature électronique, ce certificat, il est automatiquement visible au niveau de la plateforme malienne. Donc, ceci reste un gain de temps important et également permet de lutter contre la fraude, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de fraude sur les certificats d'origine et pour les produits, disons, éligibles à la taxe communautaire préférentielle. Donc, vraiment sur l'interopérabilité, nous encourageons tous les pays qui sont membres de l'Alliance à s'aligner aux standards et aux normes en termes d'échange. Parce que si le système n'est pas aux normes, on ne peut pas parler d'interopérabilité. Donc, et cet exercice, vraiment, on l'a fait avec les douanes qui sont beaucoup, qui travaillent au niveau de l'OMD, qui participent aux réunions des douaniers africains, sénégalais, qui travaillent sur l'élaboration de ces normes et standards internationaux. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. I wish we had maybe half an hour more, but so I see that we have 7 minutes, so I think it's fair now to turn to the audience and then we see if we have time for more questions. So if you have any question, please raise your hand and just briefly introduce yourself. Our panelists are here to answer. There are some things that we have not approached yet, notably, not in detail, I would say, about the role of international standards. I don't know if you would like to hear more about that, or I just... Yes? Over here.
Hi there, William Sullivan from Crime Global. This is maybe a question more directed at Nagaye in relation to kind of finding gaps in the legislation after doing the work of getting the e-certification in place. What did those gaps look like? And then to the broader panel, when working in anything e-certification related, did you guys find any gaps when the rubber hit the road?
Thank you very much for your important question. Sometimes when we would like to implement a system, we start by seeing if the regulation is on point. But what we realize that it is very important to start by the POC first and then find out all small gaps in terms of regulation. And it was a very good initiative that we had in African Alliance for E-Commerce, starting by implementing and then see in each point in terms of data protection, in terms of regulation. Because what happened, the gap that we have seen, is when we implemented the regulations that we had in ECOWAS was that the text was not updated in order to enable the recognition of the electronic document between two countries. It was also a gap on electronic signature. This is very a key point that we really need to discuss in order to facilitate, the exchange and have the trust again in terms of recognition of electronic documents. Thank you.
Any other question? We can take, I think, one or two more. So, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to just add to that. We do find that a key gap when we're negotiating is the removal of paper. Can be embedded in legislation that a paper certificate has to be issued. So sometimes we end up in a parallel exchange for a while for that reason, and this is the reason, and maybe Eric might like to comment on this further, that when we developed the guidance in CC-FIX, we were very clear that a really important part of that is to look at your legislation when you're designing your e-certification system. So, that's there in the guidance, and which, is something that seems obvious, but it is something that does come up.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And also, I think there were more gaps. We also, because Nogai and I work together in UNCFACT, and one of the gaps we identified is that when you come to paperless exchanges, the certificate is paperless exchange between the exporting country or the competent authority from the exporting country and the importing country. But not everything is moving by air or moving by sea. Also, consignments are moving by land. And then sometimes you have to transit countries, and they don't have this information. So we work together in UNCFACT on identifying this gap and what would be a probable solution for this, and this is where we are going to work in UNCFACT on, is a policy recommendation on the SPS eCert standard, which is in UNCFACT standard, but to connect this with single window interoperability and to make in this way data available also for transiting countries.
So I see two hands over here, 3, 4. Okay, let's continue with the question. So the gentleman over there, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, my name is Abdoulaye Diallo. I'm the Principal Food Inspector at the Food Safety and Quality Authority of the Gambia. I find the conversation really interesting, especially about the e-FITO. And I want to ask a question, especially to the lady who made an example from Morocco as a development agency. Sometimes we see like development agencies will come in and then they come up with very interesting ideas of like how to facilitate trade, how to make trade easier. But in your experience in this case in Morocco, what was the, I'm not sure that you are working with an MPPO, but what level of preparation was there for the NPPO? Was there any assessment of this NPPO in terms of technical know-how, in terms of physical infrastructure? Were they actually ready? I can give an example of what happened in the Gambia, in my own experience. We have a project funded by the World Bank, and then they put a lot of money in transitioning to e-FITO. But then what we realized later is that the NPPO is not prepared for that. Mentally, they are not even ready to do that. And even physically, they don't have the technical know-how, and they don't even have the physical infrastructure. So after 2 or 3 years, we're still at the same place. So is there any necessity to do this prior assessment, or you think you can just come and let's proceed to e-FITO? What was the experience, please? Thank you very much.
Thank you for the question. I know we don't have a lot of time, so we can follow up after. But just a couple of quick points. I think it's super important to do pre-scoping assessments. You need to understand the capacity and the IT infrastructure of the MPPO and of the ministry and of the organization. We spend a lot of time on that. We spend a lot of time sitting with the MPPO. And we actually we're doing another mission in Morocco now for another project where we literally just go and we sit and we tell them, explain us about your day. What are the problems that you're experiencing? What are the bottlenecks that you're having? And so we support regardless of the level of IT infrastructure and knowledge, but we need to make sure that we have the feasibility assessment at the beginning done. Morocco, for example, was a great example. At the beginning, I think there was a lot of issues of trust, and the first project took a little bit to get going. But I can just say that, we are doing a third project now with Morocco. Morocco is quite advanced, and they see a lot of value in working with us. But we do the same. We work with Senegal, we work with Cameroon, and a bunch of other countries in Africa. And we're actually looking now at a regional project in Africa to connect about 70% of the countries to the phyto system. So I'll be happy to talk about that later. Sorry.
So it's clicking on red, but I'm going to take a risk and still take one more question so that we don't stop like this, and then we can continue at the coffee break. So, blindly over here, I know, sorry. So you please, lady behind the Brazil tag, not directly, but.
Hello. My name is Maria Buskoven. I'm also working with the electronic certification in Norway, Norwegian Food Safety Authority, and we also are toddlers. We started in 2021 and are working a lot about it and learned a lot from different countries, both Netherlands and Australia and New Zealand. So it's kind of very useful to have the cooperation. I actually don't have a specific question, but I wanted to thank you for the professionally set for very good panel, because it consists of all the different aspects of working with the electronic certificate exchange. You have the policymakers, you have the people who negotiate the contract, the technical teams, the representatives. And all of the questions you are talking about are really, really relevant. And from our perspective, it's the question of getting rid of paper is very essential right now, because the dream is just to get rid of paper. And if you cannot get rid of paper in the first place, at least don't use secure paper. It's and the data can be exchanged in all types of formats. But if we could just put the objective to be just to get rid of paper as the first step, as you said, the automation automation gives a lot of benefits, both for the authorities, but also for the for our customers, for the private sector, because it gets faster. But the next step is just to get rid of paper, and then we can probably take it stepwise. That was actually it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think you agree that that was nice concluding remark given by you, and I'm going to maybe invite you to follow up with your question. So I know you're insisting, so please have your question, and maybe if that's okay with so I take one more question from you, please, and then we will wrap up and continue for the coffee. Sorry.
Merci bien. On m'appelle Septi Moussougou et je suis chargé de programme sécurité alimentaire à la CEDEAO. La CEDEAO, c'est la communauté économique des États de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Donc, on est basé à Abuja, au Nigeria. Je voudrais remercier Madame Diagne pour son intervention sur les dynamiques de dématérialisation du certificat d'origine. Et je voudrais, en complément à ce qui a été dit, à toutes les dynamiques des expériences entre deux pays, que depuis novembre 2024, la CEDEAO a officiellement lancé le système de délivrance des certificats électroniques, certificats d'origine électronique. Donc, actuellement, c'est valable pour les 15 pays de l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Donc, je crois que ces gestionnaires pilotes ont permis quand même de bâtir quelque chose de plus solide maintenant. C'est vrai que c'est lancé et on verra bien dans les prochains jours, peut-être sûrement tirer expérience de ce qui a été fait de façon pilote entre le Sénégal, la Côte d'Ivoire ou le Sénégal, le Mali. Et j'imagine que c'est une dynamique quand même que les acteurs économiques attendaient. Je crois que c'est prêt maintenant, c'est lancé. On va capitaliser dans les jours à venir pour voir comment ça fonctionne. C'est vrai, il y a des mesures d'accompagnement qu'il faut faire au niveau des pays parce que même l'infrastructure pose déjà problème. C'est pas sûr que vraiment la connexion, le minimum qu'a dit ce système, la connexion Internet soit de bonne qualité un peu partout. C'est vrai qu'il y aura des défis, mais la dynamique est quand même enclenchée à l'échelle de la CEDEAO pour que cet outil, le certificat électronique, le certificat d'origine électronique soit maintenant un outil assez important pour fluidifier les commerces intra-régionaux. Donc c'est le complément que je voulais faire.
Je vous remercie d'avoir insisté. Et, so thank you very much, everyone. A sincere thank you to all of my panelists for sharing your experience and give us so many interesting information. So I invite everyone to follow up at the coffee break. And thank you very much for the audience for listening and engaging with us, even with short Q&A at the end. Thank you.
I think I'll just stay. I'd like to take a group photo, maybe for the... Yeah, let's... Are we able to take a group photo of them? Are we able? That was indeed a very, very good panel. Let's meet back here after the coffee break at 10:50 on the dot. Hello. Oh, hi. Nice to... Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. I'd like to call you all back in our room. We'll be proceeding to the next session of the day, which is the last one, actually, of this wonderful Vienna Food Safety Forum. I hope that you enjoyed the break. I know we're talking about digitalization, but we're really hoping that you are taking the opportunity to make real connections as well and make new friends, maybe. All right, so let's proceed to our last session, which will delve into machine learning applications in food safety with a special attention on surveillance and oversight. And it is my pleasure now to welcome to the stage our moderator for this discussion, Mrs. Eleonora Dupuy, Food Safety Officer at the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO. Welcome, Eleonora. Let's also welcome our wonderful speakers for this discussion. First, Mrs. Rina Ahmed, IT Innovation Lead of the Division of Information Technology of IAAE. Welcome, Rina. Let's also welcome Mr. Bobby Krishna, Senior Specialist at the Food Safety Department of the Dubai Municipality. Let's now welcome Mr. Akosh Yuviak, Professor at the University of Veterinary Medicine in Budapest, Hungary. Welcome. Akosh is also chair of EFSA Advisory Group on Data. And last but certainly not least, let's all welcome Mr. Adriano Di Pasquale, head of the Bioinformatics Unit at IZATS. I think you pronounce it better than me, at the Italian Ministry of Health. Welcome to you all.
Moderator. Distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, welcome and thank you so much for joining this session. I would like to thank, first of all, the organizers for this impressive event, for this forum with so rich content that offered great opportunity for multidisciplinary and intersectoral dialogue on digitalization potential for food safety. And before going into the session implementation, I would like to briefly introduce my organization. I am a food safety officer at Agri-Food Systems and Food Safety Division of Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, which is a specialized UN agency established in 1995, immediately after the World War II, with a mandate to eliminate hunger, food insecurity, and all forms of malnutrition, and also to foster economic development and reduce rural poverty, and also to promote responsible use and management of natural resources. The FAO strategic framework for 2022-2031 is supporting the 2030 agenda through the transformation to more efficient agri-food systems, more inclusive, resilient and sustainable. And the four accelerators which FAO is using in its work are data, technology, including digitalization, also innovation, and complements that include governance, human capital, and institutions. Food safety is one of priority program areas at FAO, and we work on raising awareness on digital technologies for food safety, and also promoting awareness and use of digital tools for early warning and identification of emerging food safety hazards. FAO work in collaboration with governments, also with food safety authorities, with independent experts, private sector, and other stakeholders. And FAO currently also works to accelerate the transformation of agri-food systems through digitalization, and one of our distinguished invitees in this panel, Adriano Di Pasquale, he is also contributing to this FAO initiative on digitalization of agriculture. So I am very happy to moderate this session, which will look at how machine learning can improve food safety practices, assisting to enhance surveillance and regulatory oversight. Regulatory authorities, agri-food system actors across countries have many similar challenges in developing, deploying, and using machine learning, and there is a great opportunity here to share and learn. This session will highlight the scope of application of machine learning. Also, we look into challenges, into trends, into barriers, and we will also look into some insights and solutions, how to reduce the divide, digital divide between developed and developing countries. With this, I have the pleasure to invite the first speaker, Ákos Zsózviak, professor at University of Veterinary Medicine in Budapest, Hungary, and chair of EFSA Advisory Group on Data, with, who will share with us on the current state of application of machine learning and food safety surveillance, prerequisites, challenges, and barriers. Ákos, the floor is yours.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Eleonora, for the nice introduction. And let me introduce myself very, very briefly. I'm Ákos Zsózviak, and I work for the University of Veterinary Science in Budapest. Also, I'm a researcher at the Syrian Research Institute. And I'm chairing a group at the European Food Safety Authority, which is called Advisory Group on Data, which is a member state-driven formation where we provide recommendations to European Union member states, to the European Food Safety Authority, also partly to the European Commission on what to do with food safety data. And I think that's the purpose. I'm here. And I would like to share with you a few things. Just as an introductory slide, just to set the context, I would like to very briefly mention that very important thing, that food safety or food systems is a very complex nature. And I'm not talking about complexity as a colloquial English term. I'm talking about complexity as a mathematical term. So food systems are very, very complex, hard to predict or impossible to predict in many cases. And we had the promise in the past that with more data and more advanced data analytics, we will be able to do some predictions and we'll be able to oversee the whole complexity and to prevent diseases and foodborne illnesses. And partly that started to happen. We have more data, more and more data. We have better and better tools. And currently, I think we are on the verge of all these promises that AI and machine learning might be able or might be capable of overseeing this kind of complexity. However, I would like to draw your attention to also the fact that all the decision-making in food safety is intertwined with value judgments as well. And it's not pure biological or chemical or mathematical science. There is a lot of social sciences here and decision-making, ethics, values, and even philosophy interlinked. So when we make decisions on safety or security, there are things which we cannot use AI for, and we need a lot of discussions. So just this is the starting point, what I wanted to talk about. And when Eleonora asked me to talk about the current state of AI, I was trying to list all the applications. We even had some publications on that. But the point is, I think, is on the right side of this slide that we could list all the current applications of machine learning, and they are numerous and increasing, and we have more and more and better tools. But the point is that AI is not just a tool as we see it now. It is a transformative toolkit which will, and it, in fact currently already does it, transforms how we think about science, how we do science, how we gather evidence, how we derive insights. And this transformational part, I think, is more important, because that would mean that what we know about decision-making in food safety currently, it needs to be re-evaluated. We need to change our processes, most probably, how we do controls, how we do risk assessment, how we do risk management, rethink, in the light of AI, how this new kind of science could help us in making better decisions and prevent foodborne diseases. But it's not patching the current system, not improving the current data-driven analytics, but it would be, and in fact, there are some applications which point toward that direction, that this is a new kind of science, a new kind of thinking, reimagining processes, both for industry and also the authorities. However, to get there, we need to be also aware that we miss a lot of prerequisites for AI to do a good job. And there is a list of these, and unfortunately we don't have time to go very much into the details, but I just wanted to point to a few facts, that even though we say that there is an abundance of data in the agri-food systems, there are missing data. We simply don't know the exact molecular level chemical composition of our foods. We simply don't know as science. There are blind spots in our knowledge. Also, even if we have data, in many cases they are not representative. They were drawn by different scientific experiments, but you cannot really derive overall populational insights. Also, we struggle a lot with data quality and granularity. And even if we have all of these and we would like to connect with other data sets, we face interoperability problems. We cannot simply do this. There are different terminologies and ontologies used across the world for different parts of food or agri-food chain. And also, if even we have kind of interoperability, we still don't have machine-readable data. So there are a lot of things and steps we still need to do, and even the very simple ones are missing. So I would encourage everyone to make more laboratory investigations, collect more data, work on interoperability and sharing, because this is still, we miss to have better data sets to feed AI to have better decisions at the end of the day. And one special part of prerequisites which I wanted to draw attention today to is data literacy. All in all, currently, most of our problems in food safety are not necessarily problems of data analysis and AI or IT capacity. It's more of a social problem and people capacity problem. We need scientists who work in the field of food safety or food science or veterinary public health, or however we call it, with the knowledge of data, knowledge of AI, understanding of what happens, what is doable and what is not doable, what are the limitations, how to validate different data sets and how to validate the outcomes, how to put into context. And this kind of literacy is simply missing. Maybe it's a too strong word, but we mapped European curricula for food safety risk assessment to see whether we have data analytics in the European food safety risk assessment higher education curricula. And yeah, we have statistics and many adjacent fields, but no data analytics and no AI. And this is the most hardcore part of, from a data perspective for the risk analysis system, the risk assessors. And even they miss data analysis or data science in their curricula. So there is a lot to do here, and I would encourage everyone to go into that direction and also to teach ourselves and learn by doing. But this is a very important and critical point in future of food safety and AI. So this is where I end. Thank you very much, and give the floor back to you.
Thank you very much, Akos, for this setting the stage for the next discussion. Indeed, there are challenges, and everyone involved in the agri-food system should understand the capability of new technology, of AI, and how to better use them in our jobs. And Also the point that we have to revise curricula in education in order to bring trained, prepared new workforce into agri-food system is very important, combining also data science with technical, dedicated and specific science. So our next three speakers will bring insights and share case studies, cases from their own work, from their own institutions, how machine learning has been used. And our next speaker, Adriano, don't confuse with Celentano, it's Di Pasquale, but it's from Italy. And same as Adriano Celentano is famous for songs, Adriano Di Pasquale is famous in bioinformatics, and he is very good in studying how whole genome sequences can be used in preventing foodborne diseases. And now I will give the floor to Adriano, because he has also to share with you what are some problems which he found and some differences in applying machine learning to whole genome sequences in comparison with other fields. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Eleonora. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your very fantastic presentation. No, I'm not going to have some song for you, but just, I will talk about genomics data. I like the terms from Akush saying the complexity of machine learning. Here I add an additional complexity that is taking WGS data, the whole genome sequencing data for microbial pathogens. I'm bioinformatics. I'm a computer scientist working in the last 10 years in bioinformatics at IZS. That is a very complex name, in Italian name. It's at the Veterinarian Institute under the Ministry of Health. The whole name is Istituto Zooprofilattico Sperimentale dell'Abruzzo e del Molise. So IZS is more than enough. In this context, we are managing this platform called GenPath, that is a bioinformatics platform for whole genome sequencing data for microbial pathogens. We are in contact with EFSA, with the WGS One Health system. We are also an extension of this platform in a project with the joint FAO-IAEA center. So we are in this context. I will again talk about what we do with machine learning of those data. I'm very happy that the counter is not started, so I have more time, I guess. Okay, let me just say a bit. No, the count now is started. The WGS data. What is that? I don't know if here we have people working with the genomics data on microbial pathogens, but just a very few words on these. The context in the food safety is that we have several food production plants where we normally take samples just to correlate them with the clinical cases. So we are normally taking samples, like typically bacteria. We do per culture, that DNA extraction, and then we perform next generation sequencing, the sequencing that provide us, very simplified terms, the data, we call it WGS data. So these are the data we would like to analyze with the machine learning. We can think this was the DNA of the bacteria. It's very different WGS data compared to other kind of very popular data we are now under evaluation of machine learning, like image data or text data. Very different. I guess that if you have in these photos of image recognition, you easily understand that there is a mistake. I hope. I hope that you are able to understand that the machine learning didn't catch one of the photo in the right class. I hope you're right. Okay. So it's a matter of some seconds. But if we want to establish if a prediction is correct in genomics data, is completely different world. You cannot have just seconds for understanding if the prediction is correct or not. You need to sequence, you need to analyze, to test the samples, and it takes hours and maybe days. So you understand the difference between these two words. We are here, we use the machine learning. I note the 1 point from Akos. It is a WGS data for AMR prediction. It's one in the general context, genotype to phenotype prediction. You take the genotype, that is WGS data, you train models and try to find a class, like AMR, the capacity of the pathogen to resist of an antimicrobial, okay? In this case, we investigated also another important phenotype, the capacity of the pathogen to adapt to a specific food environment. This is important in epidemiological context because how it works, you have the WGS set of your samples, of your pathogens, you have labels for those pathogens, and you train a model to have the prediction. Then the usage is in this context. Whenever you have clinical case, you have the pathogens. Normally, you ask to the patients, look, what have you eaten 1 week ago? Do you remember what you eaten last Monday or last Friday? Okay, you understand that it's a weak way of understanding the source. This kind of models, this kind of tools can help a lot the direction of outbreak investigation, but it has a problem. The labels, whenever you have an AMR prediction, it is resistant, not resistant, you take the samples, you can test the sample, and you see if the prediction is correct or not. For some phenotype, you can do this. For some other phenotype, you can't do this, like in this case. In this case, you cannot test the pathogens and to understand if the prediction is correct or not. It's a matter of trust. Sorry, you have the trust, and for us, became noise of the prediction. Yes, I'm sorry, but I have this comics but I think that is let them understand us more than several words. It's a typical situation when one tries to collect their phenotype labels to put in this machine learning trainings, asking for the matrix of the samples. And the origin, they say just meat. Yes, of course. But are you sure? No. Are you sure? No. And you can imagine all the words coming after this discussion, after training of the models that have already been done. So this is a problem, the problem of trust. In many phenotypes, the machine learning prediction is very important in that context. But we have the problem that we cannot test the prediction at the end. You have to face this problem. Typically, one of the solutions is to reduce the number of possible predictions. At the contrary, to try to predict vegetables, fruits, meat, poultry, etc., 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 you just reduce to meat and not meat, or something like that. It depends on many contexts. This is a big problem. And in the case of meat, not meat, we had a good accuracy. We put it in the real world, this expert system, putting in our genomics bioinformatics platform to be tested with the new samples that is coming. Yes, and we have at least the possibility to discriminate meat by not meat. That is very important during an outbreak investigation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Adriano, for this insightful share of experience. And I invite the audience to approach personally Adriano for more details in case of interest after the session. And as has been mentioned by many speakers, that data quality and data amount is paramount for training machine learning. And we have here with us a colleague from EAEA, Rina Ahmed, who will share with us the experience of food control and food safety laboratory on training on using machine learning in analytical world, and also addressing food fraud, one also of topics of great interest for authorities. Rina, the floor is yours, please.
Thank you, Eleonora. Good morning, everyone. So waiting for my slides to show up. Okay, great. Good. So my name is Rina Ahmed. I'm IT Innovation Lead in the International Atomic Energy Agency in the Division of Information Technology under the Department of Management. What we do in the innovation team is we work with different business units across the agency, across different application scenarios, across different domains to apply innovative solutions to the business challenges that they face. And I would like to also talk today about one of such example. Additionally, what we also do is foster a culture of innovation across the agency through activities of awareness and outreach. Prior to working at the agency, I was working at Microsoft as a technical evangelist and software engineer for artificial intelligence and machine learning. So I have some experience on working on and exploring such solution, but across different industries and domains. So what I would like to work today is a project that we did together with the IEA Food Safety Control Lab. This was about exploring the potential of artificial intelligence and machine learning to better support member states in ensuring food safety. We also have the head of the lab here today, Christina Vlachou. So if you want more information also what the Food Safety Control Lab does, she will be here in the break to answer this. So when we started this engagement, we basically discussed what are they doing today. And they have various scenarios and activities in the area of determining food fraud, food authentication, determining food origin, all of this which leads and promotes enhanced food safety. And they already use various chemometric approaches today to determine food fraud, food authentication, food origin of different food item types. But the idea here was using machine learning or deep learning approaches to see if we can improve and also to provide alternative ways to determine food authentication, for example. And so the idea here was twofold for a project. First, we wanted to have one specific example and scenario where we can apply machine learning and see how does it perform in that scenario. But the other was also when we reach some satisfactory result, how can we transfer that knowledge to member states so that they can also apply such techniques on their own? And so what we're looking here is for an example of a multispectral imaging instrument. What it does, it combines imaging, it combines infrared spectroscopy and machine learning, where you can extract data from food samples and then use that data to perform various kinds of analytics on this. And this was basically a key point where we thought, okay, let's take this, such an example. You can further apply such machines in other scenarios. For example, if you analyze cereal or grain, you could identify whether it is contaminated by mold or not. And so we looked at the different data sets that the Food Safety Control Lab has, and we selected one where a study was implemented on the geographic discrimination of Pausan rice, which is a rice type in Myanmar. And in that study, we had data extracted from rice samples of 2 regions in Myanmar. And this on it, near infrared spectroscopy was applied to extract data, and we looked at that data from 2 perspectives. First, it was done on the whole grain sample rice as is, and in the second set, the same thing was applied on first grinding the rice and applying this. And the idea was, if we use machine learning, we can, and it performs better on the whole grain rice, it saves the field a full step of not having to perform these extra sample preparation measures that have been taken. And so we did achieve good results here. We used different machine learning approaches. We looked at neural networks, we looked at decision trees, support vector machines, and we did see that our approach performed better, especially in the whole grain rice scenario. So that provides great value for the member states if they can apply this technique at home and save that step of specimen preparation. But the second part was also looking, okay, how can we then transfer this knowledge to the member state? And to this extent, the Food Safety Control Lab hosted a technical cooperation workshop with scientists from member states of the Caribbean region, where we presented our findings, but also we researched on different platforms and technologies that you can use and that provide different alternative methods on how scientists could apply this at home. And so when we get to the next round, I can give a little bit more detail, but for now, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rina. As artificial intelligence is a trigger and a factor which also require more quality data, the role of analytical laboratory is increasing, and especially those who are accredited and have reliable results. So I would invite Christina, please raise your hand so the audience knows the head of the laboratory.
Yes, thank you, Eleonora.
Where Rina is working. So if you have questions, please address to Rina and Christina. Thank you both. Now I have another kind request to the audience. Please let me know, raise a hand if you are a regulatory official. Please raise your hand in the audience. So, excellent. Thank you very much. And now next questions. Please raise the hand or keep the hand raised if you use machine learning or artificial intelligence in your work. Which of you? So there are also quite a few. So excellent, thank you very much. And now we have the honor and pleasure to have a speaker from which represents the regulatory authority. Institutionalization of machine learning integration into existing workflow is paramount for its systematic and optimal use, and we would like that Bobby Krishna share with us the Dubai experience with new technology application. Also, we would like to know how these technologies and tools, is it easy to develop and their cost. And yes, with this I would give the floor to Bobby, please.
Thank you, Eleonora. Good morning, everyone. The regulators are a minority in this room, and regulators who use ML and AI is also very less. So let me try to kind of make it as simple as possible. And I can tell you that the work is a lot more messier if you're talking about AI and trying to build the systems that you want as a food safety expert with a team of technical people who have no idea what food safety is. You know, the story that we always hear in the office is about how to improve inspections and how to make sure that the number of foodborne diseases are reduced. Earlier, we looked at whole genome sequencing as it's a great tool, but then most countries do not have the privilege of having those technologies and that kind of laboratories that can collect samples and analyze. And you have to rely a whole lot of you have to rely on data that you can get, and often it's epidemiological data, consumption data, you know, what is being imported, etc. The Food Safety Department of Dubai Municipality has a unique position. We are a very small, organization looking after a city, and the department oversees every aspect of food safety. So we look after inspections, we look after the import inspections, and 95% of the foods to Dubai are imported. So we pretty much know where the foods are coming from, who is importing it, which country is it coming from, etc. And then we also look after training programs for food safety, to food businesses. We look after laboratory verification programs, etc. So we have basically an access to data, and our digitalization process started way back in 1998. So we have quite a few legacy systems that are there in place, and also starting off with digitization, just converting paper-based documents into digital records, and then getting into the true digital transformation in 2015 and after, where we could use that data to kind of automate processes, etc. We got the access to quite a few clean data sets, and owning those data would also mean that we can move much faster. So I'm giving this as an input because it's not easy to create systems from scratch very easily and keep moving with the pace that you want for some of these machine learning models and AI to work. And what we are working on currently is a generative AI-supported inspection system. So here we're looking at what you see on the screen is how this inspector would see his area. They can see the problems around them. So if I'm in a locality, I can see what's going on around. It's very important for you as an inspector to know not just the premise that you're inspecting, but also maybe a pest infestation in the neighboring facility or neighboring region, or a waste management problem would be very useful for the inspector to spot. So we kind of give an aerial view of what's going on. What are the kind of problems that's in the radar, and also we're giving the inspector an ability to use the data that we have from the past to kind of look at what could be going wrong in that business, historical violations or any other complaints and incidents that we can pick up from, and also the self-guiding mechanism using generative AI can help the inspector identify the right violation in the risk. And also appropriately put that in a risk scale, whether it's significant, does it have a direct impact, etc. And also use the OCR, or optical character recognition, to kind of pick up the messages, a product label or information, and then convert that into text and put that into the report. Now, this is a very simple tool, but it also requires an enormous amount of data to kind of make the predictions or forecast actually useful. So this comes in from our databases that we connect with. And as a department, we have information about our inspections, and mostly digitally available from 2012. And then we've got information about incident response mechanisms. Products that are registered in Dubai are completely digitalized. We have the permit information. We've got information about where are the pest activities, as I mentioned, and also having other department data within the framework, like we can access data from the Environmental Health Department, which is our sister concern, or a public health or a waste management department, and that all feeds into certain databases that we use. In the current state, we have like linear processes where our systems are collecting data and then using a linear workflow. But what we're trying to do in the future is create an agentic AI supporting system. And that's again, this is going to be a 3-4 year exercise. And we want to prepare the current data to make it available for the AI agents to work. And here again, when you start working on these systems, you hit this wall all the time. Your tech team saying that, oh, this data cannot be used because it is unstructured or structured. We don't have the reliability. We need to clean up. And most often, the estimates of time that you might have, like you plan to launch a program in 6 months, it will end up with 1 year, 2 years. By the time you finish the program, the technology that you wanted to use is outdated and something new is on. So having said this, what I also want to highlight is that there are very interesting and useful tools today which are freely accessible. One of the things that we use is Gemini's Live. Gemini Live is really useful for helping training food and handlers. So when an inspector goes to the field, they can actually create an interactive environment where they can use the Gemini's AI capabilities to switch languages quickly, explain a concept in whatever language you want. We have workforce from 192 countries in Dubai, and many of them the inspectors cannot speak, right? So what the inspectors do is use the AI to kind of set the premises. And we also see that inspectors are significantly improving their capabilities based on that. So we'll take some questions later, but before I finish, I just want to make sure that the agility in your systems is really, really important. And when you're building a system as a regulator, you need to go incrementally, and you got to go with small steps at a time. And if you don't go incrementally, the risk of fall is very high. So all the systems that we build, we've had the legacy of records, we had the legacy of information, and we always build technology incrementally. And cultivating that culture within the framework is really important to take or make informed decisions that can drive better food safety. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bobby, for sharing this very interesting case of how artificial intelligence, machine learning is integrated into regulatory operations. And it's interesting invite to have an assessment where this integration stands in different authorities, so that each one understands from where, from which is starting point to start implementing and documenting how to make a roadmap and to achieve well integrated digital solutions into their operations. Now we speak and we are aware and knowledgeable that the differences in food control systems nowadays in between developed and developing countries is big, and this divide is even increasing with digitalization. So next question is a common question for all panelists. I would like the panel share with us what development pathways you would suggest to make use of machine learning, a common practice in food safety community globally. What immediate actions you would suggest to reduce the digital divide between developed and low and middle income countries? So please, we can start with anyone who would like to take first the floor. There is a micro, Arina, please. Is it on? There is a button.
Okay, I will just speak loudly.
You can come here.
Hear me? Okay. So as I said, we did this project, which our goal was to transfer the knowledge to member state. And as mentioned
topic in this area is, of course, data quality, data amount, and also with these food safety. When we want to build machine learning models, we have to ensure that models that learn appropriately generalize enough so it can be applied in similar scenarios. But another challenge that was important for us was also something that Akos mentioned, is data literacy. So we wanted a way to also give to transfer knowledge where we saw we may have scientists and researchers, but not necessarily the machine learning or data scientist capabilities. So we basically found a way how we can not just provide something ready-made, especially if a model cannot be applied one-to-one, but how can we actually transfer so that member states can learn step by step what was explored, what do the results mean, and how can they be tweaked to apply in similar scenarios. And lastly, what I also want to highlight is we wanted to find different technical platform and technical options to give to member states so they can apply these scenarios. And there were different criteria. For example, tackling literacy, it would be good if there are low code or no code options that do not require extensive programming experience. But also we looked at the cost factors. So we wanted to provide different cost opportunities, but also where can it be hosted? Would it be a cloud-based scenario or on-prem? So we did a research on different platforms, but I do want to highlight the role of open source technology, because especially for low, medium income countries, cost may be a very important factor, and having solutions that are widely popular and used and open source can be leveraged in this scenario. Yes, thank you.
Thank you very much, Rina. And now next, Adriano. He has a good micro already.
Yep, I think it's working now.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. And I agree with Rina, of course. And in this context, I would like just to mention at least two initiatives where we are involved at FAO. As you, Eleonora, reminded at the beginning, yes, we have involved in a publication with the use of AI for food safety. It is an ongoing activity that produces the reports next year, I guess. And also, in FAO is a digital agriculture and AI innovation roadmap. They are both source for a survey of methods to be applied especially in LMIC, and also practical activities. And in the roadmap especially, they have the aims to reduce the fragmented projects in order to have a more harmonized project for, AI in general and machine learning.
Thank you very much, Adriano. Just to add that FAO have developed guidance on AI governance, which has been consulted with multiple stakeholders, and currently this guidance is at the stage of incorporating the feedback. And it will be presented at AI for Good Summit in July, and also the final version at the Science and Innovation Forum in October. So those interested in AI governance, you can take a look at the FAO website. And now next, Akos, please.
Thank you very much for the presentations and for the question as well. So I think there is a lot of misunderstanding and duality in many ways when we talk about AI. We talk about AI that it's very easy to use, it's transforming, it's really cheap to use. On the other hand, we say that the low and middle income countries will be left behind, and we need data literacy and a lot of data, a lot of prerequisites to operate machine learning and AI in a feasible or effective way. And I think both are true in kind of. It depends on where is your starting point and what you want to achieve. And for that matter, I think AI, and especially large language models, are really, really good toolkits for low and middle income countries, also for like individual experts or small businesses, because the entry burden is really low, both in terms of learning curve and also in terms of costs. And as Rina mentioned, we have already a lot of no-code or low-code tools, which means that with very low entry burden, a lot of people opened towards data analytics or solving problems could do it now. So a few years ago, a project of putting an application together would like mean 3 years and a lot of euros or dollars spent. And now it could be done within maybe a few days if you are really open to do it. And I think that's an important point, what a lot of people miss, that it's really quite easy to use and quite easy to enter this field. So I would encourage everyone to spend a bit time with large language models and to see your use case, play around. Also, institutions don't like to fail. That's an important and valid point. So in many cases, we cannot just play around with the data and do policy based on that. But when you are in the exploratory phase, it's still good to do. And it's a lot of learning opportunity currently for that. And it's not a matter of money. And even I would encourage for some tasks to use not only open source large language models, but also the paid versions, which are really not that expensive that it would be a burden. But they offer a lot of convenience compared to open source applications as well. So my advice would be to use more, engage more, maybe in an exploratory phase, trial and fail more to learn about how large language models could be really useful for your use case. So this is one important point, and also for low and middle income countries especially. And the other point is the capacity building and the data literacy, AI literacy, which it's a long-term investment, and we need to do this if we want to make a proper job. However, there are many also open source courses out there, open source open 4-hour, where you could ask questions. So this self-learning activity, I think, is currently becoming more and more popular and important. And this is also a very good entry point for a lot of people, just to sign up for an open course, grab an open online tool and start implementing something for your use case. And it's really easy to do compared to 5 years ago. So that would be my advice. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Akos. So embracing new technology without fear is an encouragement, and we hope that this, let's say, encouragement will be taken. And Bobby, please, your insights.
And I like to deal with the different groups. One is the AI skeptic group who know the system, but we don't know how it works, and they're not really comfortable using it. Then you got people who do not know, and they are probably the fastest adopters. Like what Akos was mentioning about LLMs are really beautiful, and we are big fans of using Google Notebook LM, for instance. Of late, like last 6 months, I've been using it to kind of break down concepts and train the team members. And it can generate podcasts in 53 languages in a matter of minutes. So you could take a guideline, break it down, convert that into a podcast, and distribute to the team. And by the time you get for a meeting, within 10 minutes, you can set them up for the meeting with complex principles in mind. And I use it also for tech teams, for instance, to break down food safety concepts and train the technology team on anything that we want to achieve. Gemini Live, as I mentioned earlier, is again a very good tool. And we've seen that people are willing to move quickly and take questions and answers and get into, they're getting out of that fear of going wrong. Yes, there would be instances of hallucinations, but we don't see a lot of hallucination in casual conversations about food standards. We also tried something on Gemini where we put the food code in, and then we could direct the discussions on food code for the team, so that it doesn't need any additional cost. So this is one. The second part, what we try to do is to identify where are those major gaps coming in the food business users, because we offer almost all services completely digitally. It's always a task to find out, is there anyone getting completely missed out? And data itself is very useful. So we can see people who are showing a particular pattern from our data analytical tools, using our data analytical tools, and we can see if there is a consistent mess up happening in a particular sector. And we try to intervene with support mechanisms, reach out to them, have in-person discussions, and also capacity building programs for food businesses. So this is work in progress. And I think if we really want to get more benefit, the human interface has to be carefully treaded. And we need to make sure that the human capability is advanced as much as the technology is. It's very easy to buy a program and run it in your business, but if you want to make informed decisions, the human training is really, really important, and that's your focus all the time.
Thank you very much, Bobby. So try, get familiar, and empower the Food Safety Authority to use digital technologies, and this is high time to do that. We would like to take a couple of questions, and we apologize for maybe taking your time from lunch break. But if you would like, we can take 1-2 questions. If there is from the audience, please let us know. Yes, please.
Thank you so much to the panel for such insightful information. I am Janelle Yard-Blackman, Food Safety Specialist at CAFSA, and I would like to share that I have been part of the training that would have taken place at the IAEA, and at that training, the information that was basically shared allowed us to recognize how much we in the Caribbean are at risk for, I want to say, food fraud. Further to that training, we have since embarked on the creation, or I want to say the formation of a regional center on food authenticity testing. We acknowledge that this is not a venture that can happen overnight. However, by starting with voluntary sampling to create a database of products for the Caribbean is a good way to go. However, what is important is creating the demand for testing. And as such, we have embarked even further on sharing information about food authenticity testing, machine learning, the different types of tests, what it involves, how consumers need to know what they are buying. In closing, we acknowledge that the industry for food fraud is $40 billion because our market is there. If consumers are aware of what they are purchasing, then that figure may change. And it is important for us to share more on food authenticity to consumers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janelle and CAFSA. And I would like to thank all panelists for excellent presentations and engagement in this contribution to this important forum, and also the audience. And I would like to invite a round of applause. So but before breaking for lunch, we have from Senegal one question. Senegal, please.
Bien, merci beaucoup. Aïda Bodian, présidente de la sécurité alimentaire au niveau du Sénégal. Alors, je voudrais en tout cas remercier UNIDO d'avoir invité le Sénégal à ce forum important. Alors, je tenais aussi à féliciter tous les participants pour la qualité des présentations. Je voudrais poser une question à Bobby par rapport à leur système de contrôle. Est-ce que dans les inspections, vous avez eu à identifier une mauvaise qualité de produit? Si oui, quelle est la conduite que vous avez tenue par rapport à cette situation pour éventuer les prochaines fraudes, les prochaines fraudes? Merci.
The inspections always will find problems, and what we try to do is to make sure that the approach is always risk-based. is there a critical problem associated with the product, or do we anticipate a problem? Do we see that as a trend versus an isolated incident? So if you see a trend from a certain country or a certain a producer or manufacturer having the same problem over and over, that's when we intervene. We might stop the imports completely or have a regulatory action that's more stringent. But if you think that if your assessment shows that if it's just one of an incident where the contamination seems to be very low, it could be reprocessed or repurposed for something else, we would do that. So each problem would have its own different solution. But very important to look at whether it's a trend versus an incident and deal with it accordingly.
So in a nutshell, as a response, the penalty will be proportional to the risk. This is the message. Okay, with this, our time expired, and I would like to thank again all panelists and audience for this session on machine learning in enhancing surveillance and regulatory operations. Thank you very much, everyone.
So much. Thank you so much, Eleonora, and our brilliant panel of experts. What a brilliant conversation to conclude 3 days of knowledge sharing here, high-level content at the Vienna Food Safety Forum. Thank you once again. Big round of applause for a fantastic panel. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes. Oh, yes. I will invite you back on the stage for a group photo. Might as well, yes. It's lovely to see you again. And whilst our experts are taking a group photo, we have a special announcement about this afternoon's program from one of the architects behind our event, Gabor Molnar, Industrial Development Officer at UNIDO.
Thank you very much, Anna-Marie. Yes, just a quick information concerning our afternoon sessions. So as you can see in the agenda, we are going to have a brainstorming session on developing guidelines, principles for the use of digitalization and artificial intelligence in food safety systems. I strongly encourage those who are interested to stay, particularly our friends and regulators. In addition to this, I would like to remind those who are participating in the Lighthouse session in leveraging digital solutions for intra-African trade, that the Lighthouse session will take place at 2 p.m. in D1765, and my colleague Nikita will be in front of the room, in boardroom D, to bring up everyone to the room in case you don't know where it is. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Gabor, for this very important information. I also have a quick mention for Mr. Chris Elliott and Mrs. Anna Aguilera. Please meet with Niveen from the UNIDO team just after our forum to pick up your DSA. Niveen is over there. She's waving her hands, please. So that's for Mr. Chris Elliott and Mrs. Anna Aguilera. That's very important. So please do meet with her once we have concluded. So now, it's almost time to say goodbye, to conclude this fantastic Vienna Food Safety Forum 2025. And it is my distinct honor now to introduce the first speaker for our closing ceremony. Let's put our hands together to welcome Mrs. Anna Somerville, Assistant Secretary at the Australian Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry, for her closing remarks.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been a pleasure this last few days. Guests, colleagues and friends in food safety, Mr. Bega. Unfortunately, Mr. Tom Black has had to return to Australia, and so I've been asked to say a few words on his behalf at the close of this forum. Australia has been really proud to have co-sponsored this third Vienna Food Safety Forum that's brought together food regulators, leaders in the food industry, academics, and service providers to really share our knowledge about digitalisation and how we can improve regulatory outcomes whilst supporting fair practices in food trade. Over the past 3 days, we have shared our experiences and deep expertise about the potential for digitalisation, about data collection, how we use and manage it, how we store it, about data security, and we've heard from specialists working in the regulatory environment and those working within the food industry. Of particular note, and what struck me, is the overlap and the commonality we hear about the challenges and opportunities of information sharing between industry members, as well as between governments and between government and industry. I would really like to thank the speakers and panellists for sharing their knowledge so generously and for sharing your experience. You have challenged all of us to think more critically, to consider risk-based approaches, and to review our ways of working to permit innovation and improvements that await with the rapid emergency of this digital world. A key theme that came through the presentations was cooperation, and we need to think about how we interoperate, there's an easier way to say it, with each other to ensure that the data we create and store has purpose and meaning and is used to its fullest capacity to improve food safety outcomes and fair practices in food trade. I would like to thank our moderators and translators and the behind-the-scenes heroes from UNIDO and DAF. I'd also like to thank my colleague Glenn Edmonds for all his hard work in working with UNIDO, for your dedication and support, which has made this forum seamless and accessible for all of us. And lastly, but not least, I would like to thank UNIDO, SDF and other international partners and sponsors who have ensured this event is a success. And especially thank you to all of you yourselves, whether in person at this event, travelling long distances to be here in some cases, or whether you've been online very early or very late in your country. Your interest, dedication and engagement in the discussion on how digitalisation can ensure continued and improved food safety into the future, and continuing that discussion when this meeting is done, is essential to the success of our work. So I challenge you all to take the lessons learnt away, and next time when we come back for the next Vienna Food Safety Forum or the next event where we're discussing and developing standards around digitalisation, that you bring that learning and experience and you've tried and developed and moved ahead. Finally, as you know, Mr. Black is the current chair of CCFIX, which will be hosted in Australia next year in Perth. And there's a lot of content in this forum that is of interest to members of that committee, and I'm sure that much of this discussion here will help inform the drafting and delivery of papers for the next CCFIX meeting. Thank you very much for your time and attention these last few days. It's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mrs. Anna Somerville. And now let's welcome Mr. Günther Begger, Managing Director for SDG Innovation and Economic Transformation Directorate at UNIDO, for his closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you, Anne-Kathrin, dear Anne, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen, colleagues. Now it's time to come to the close of this Vienna Food Safety Forum, and I promise you this is the last speech. And but I also want to take this opportunity to say big thank you, first of all, to all of you. I think the room is full at the end of 2.5 meetings. I have to say, if we sometimes have board meetings here, it's not the same picture. So I think congratulations to all of you, to all of us. I think that is a sign that this 2.5 meeting was not only interesting but also inspiring, and such an conference, such an event, of course, depends on you, on your active participation. And I had the opportunity to be several times here for several reasons, and also sometimes in the evening I had a lot of discussions, exchange with partners, but also with the private sector. And I have to say, that is a real successful conference. And under the theme, the potential of digitalization, we have not only exchanged ideas, but, and that is most important, co-created pathway to accelerate innovation in food safety. And I think that you can agree when I say that this forum marked a turning point in our collective understanding of how digitalization and artificial intelligence can serve as a powerful enabler, not only of better food safety, but of better governance, better trade, and better trust. And as Anna already mentioned, we have heard from jurisdictions piloting AI-enabled risk assessment, from companies leveraging digital traceability, from regulators exploring next-generation digital platforms for inspection, data sharing, and transparency. And as I learned now from Gabor, it's not finished yet. You have some more discussions, meetings in smaller groups. And I have to say, these are not just case studies. They are beacons of what is possible when ambition is matched, as Anna mentioned, by collaboration. I think that's one very important point. And so we are, of course, a little bit proud to provide this platform for conversation since 2015, when the first Vienna Food Safety Forum took place here in Vienna. And we are even more proud to take forward the momentum that this 2025 forum has generated. And dear colleagues from the permanent representations, we will build on this and that is an important point, by deepening our support to member states, especially developing countries and LDCs, in digitally transforming their food systems. That means investment in infrastructure, but also in investments in institutions and in capacity development. Importantly, this forum reaffirmed the need for multilateral cooperation. We will not overcome global food safety challenges in silos. It is only by building trusted, connected ecosystems across countries and sectors that we can unlock the full potential of innovation. In this spirit, I also want to thank, of course, our partners from Codex Alimentarius, FAO, WHO, WTO, the private sector, academia, for standing with us in this endeavor. Ladies and gentlemen, food safety is a fundamental right, but ensuring it into the 21st century, it requires 21st century tools and solutions, and we encourage to apply them. At UNIDO, we are ready, and we know that after this forum, so are you. So let us leave Vienna not only with new ideas, but with a renewed commitment to act, to invest, and to collaborate for a future where safe food is a reality for all. So once more, I also want to thank, first of all, Anne-Marie for your great moderation over 2.5 days. I think this was also challenging, but I see all the participants in a good mood. So it's also a part of your job. I also want to thank the interpreters for 2.5 days work. And last but not least, I have to say, my great team. And I would like to invite Gabor and his team here on the stage for a big, big, big applaud. Gabor, Nevin. Thank you so much for your outstanding work in curating this forum that bridges the technical, the strategic, and the visionary. And I have to say, please come on the stage. And I have to say also, and I think also to complete this picture, Anna, can I invite you? Because from you and your team from Australian part, because without your support, of course, this conference would not be possible. Marlene from WTO, can we also ask you? I think that is a really good picture now for endings. Once more, thank you so much. And now I learned there is something like a lunch break. And after that, some additional more work for some of you. So once more, thank you very much. And I can promise it will not last three more years for the next Vienna Food Safety Forum. I think we will have it earlier. Yes. Thank you so much.
And this concludes the Vienna Food Safety Forum 2025. Thank you to all of you for your active participation. Thank you, of course, for all our speakers. And before leaving the room, I would like to call you all to the front to take a group picture. Let's all take a picture together and take a fantastic snapshot of our participation to the Vienna Food Safety Forum 2025. Let's all come to the front and take a picture all together. Yes.